Hi, Shankar. Thanks for coming.
Oh, hi, doctor. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm fine as well. Thank you. It's been over 2 years, doctors, that we have not been able to meet yet, isn't it, in person?
Yes.
Great. Lokesh, let me know when we can get started.
Right, we can get started.
Great. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. Really happy to see each one of you in this space. To all those who are watching us live on YouTube, my name is Vaishnavi. I'm the Executive Director of Bhumi. Thank you very much for joining us. I would like to begin by sharing the vision of the Bhumi Fellowship Program, which is to achieve equitable education for all children. The Bhumi Fellowship is a leadership experience that is anchored in whole school transformation to improve teaching practices, school level decision making, and parent investment in low income schools that we work with. With fellows driving change in these schools, the experience and exposure are geared towards building young change makers for systemic change in the education system after the fellowship. The program is now being implemented in Chennai in partnership with the BNP Paribas India Foundation, whose support has enabled digital access to the children that we work with, particularly during this pandemic. I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Shankar Ramkrishnan, head of the foundation, who's here with us today, for distributing tablets to 198 of the most needy children in our schools, and also facilitating a workshop in building leadership and communication for our fellows. One of the core objectives of the Bhumi Fellowship Program is for the fellows to build sustainable solutions for their schools in the second year of the fellowship. And we believe this experience develops their entrepreneurial acumen and primes them to become education entrepreneurs in the long run. Early this year in February, the 5 fellows from our first cohort engaged in an in-depth causal analysis to identify key problems and develop systemic solutions for their respective schools. Carefully curated training spaces over the past 4 months have helped them design the theory of change and a detailed project strategy. Today, we are gathered here for them to present their projects, which we believe, when put in action, will be the first step towards achieving our vision of equitable education for the children in their respective contexts. Each fellow will take 5 minutes to explain what they aspire to do, followed by 5 minutes for questions or suggestions from those present in this room. As people with vast experience in the space of social change, we believe your inputs will be invaluable and will help our fellows sharpen their approach. So we're really looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Without further ado, I invite Anjali Sarma to present her idea. An architect by education, Anjali is passionate about heritage conservation and writing. She believes that education is the only way for our society to progress, and that beginning at the grassroots is the only way to implement change. Welcome, Anjali. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Vaish. Good morning, everyone. I will just share my screen and please let me know if it is visible to all of you.
Yes, Anjali.
Yeah, is it visible for everyone? Great. Okay, I'll get started then. My name is Anjali, like Vaish mentioned. I'm currently a Bhumi Fellow working at Macaulay Nursery and Primary School, and today I will be presenting to you my project outline. Through this presentation, I will be running you through the problem, my vision for the school, the stakeholders involved, as well as the key interventions and outcomes that I have planned through my project. To give you a little bit of context, Macaulay Nursery and Primary School is a low-income private school that is English medium. It is located in North Chennai. It's a densely populated area called Old Washerman Pet that is home to several working class families. And all of the teachers and students at my school, they are all from this area itself. So what is the problem? While I could have addressed many areas through this project, based on my experience over the past 1 year, I identified 3 key areas. The first being the school leadership practices, the absence of an enabling learning environment, as well as the mindsets of the stakeholders involved. I'm going to share with you 2 incidents that were at the top of my mind while I was designing my project. The first is after I had organized a learning circle for my teachers, there was a small postwork for the teachers to engage with for about 15 minutes, which none of them were able to do so. So I approached my HM and I asked her, ma'am, what do you think the challenge is? Why aren't they able to do it? And she said immediately, like her immediate response was, they never listened to me. I told them to do it, but this is a recurring pattern. They just don't engage with it. I said, okay, I will speak to the teachers. So I went up to my teachers and asked them what the challenge was. And they said, ma'am, we were given so many other things to do on the same day, administrative work, that we were unable to engage with the post work. How are we supposed to do it? And I said, okay, I understand. I will see what I can do. Now, funnily enough, there was another incident just the previous day where I was trying to engage with a parent and I was unable to reach her. And I asked a teacher, ma'am, you know this parent. How can I get in touch with her and get her to come to school? And the immediate response there was, she never listens to me. I've tried so many times to call and reach out to her, but she just doesn't listen. She's never going to change. I said, doesn't matter. I'm going to try and make her come to school. So when the parent finally came to school, I asked her, ma'am, what has the challenge been? She's like, why should I answer your calls? You only ever call to ask me about the fees. How is that going to help my child? Now, if you notice, these 2 seemingly separate incidents have one thing in common. There is a lack of trust between the stakeholders involved. And one very important thing that's missing. The student isn't at the center in either of these 2 incidents because everyone is so involved with their issues that they are unable to place the child at the center. Which brings me to my vision for the school. That the school will be an enabling learning environment for its teachers as well as students, and also foster a trusting relationship between all of its stakeholders, because I believe this is very important for the students to learn and grow over the years. The key levers that I have identified are the HM, which is the school leader, the teachers, and the community, which is the parents by extension. I believe my project will help all of them align on student outcomes, both at the short term as well as in the long term. Some key interventions that I've identified for the students itself are the provision of learning kits so that they have access to resources, whether it's at home or at school, and also to restructure the existing club activities so that they can engage in extracurricular activities as well. And in the short term, as I mentioned already, they have access to resources and engage in extracurriculars. And in the long term, most importantly, they'll be at grade level literacy and numeracy, which is something that we are working on actively. As for individual interventions, for the school leader, there are reflection spaces planned for her to think about how she's taking the school forward, have a vision for the school, and involve everybody around her. Involve a system that has feedback loops, be it the students, the teachers, or the parents, and also have individualized check-ins with the teachers to help their growth and development, and importantly, help them apply their learnings into practice. In the short term, it's for her to establish a system within the school and have a growth mindset, and the long term, for her to be an effective administrator who has active community linkages and is highly invested in the development of both the teachers and the students. As for the teachers, there are learning circles to continue their development, as well as sharing spaces for them to be able to communicate with each other on a professional level, as well as engage with the teachers and parents in an informal yet structured manner. The outcomes envisioned for them is for them to be proactive learners who can take as well as receive feedbacks, have agency of their own because they are leaders in their own right, and also to be able to develop a vision for the school along with the school leader. As for the parents, there's an open house plan before school reopens, as well as sharing spaces, again, similar to what I mentioned for teachers. And the outcomes for the parents are that they will have clarity on their role in achieving student outcomes, and that they will be highly engaged and invested to communicate with the teachers and the school leader to help their children grow. So through all of this, what I would like to achieve is the fact that students have agency, they have a positive environment where they can learn, they can develop as individuals, and have agency and a voice of their own. And I believe by having these small shifts in place, both systemic as well as interventions that are targeted at providing an environment, students will be able to develop and their growth will be seen, and this will lead to a sustainable change in the school in the future. Thank you so much. I'll pause here.
Great. Thank you very much, Anjali. On behalf of the program team, I wish you the best in making this come alive. We'll now pause here, and I would like to invite questions, thoughts, and wishes from Shankar and the support team and the board members who are present here. Shankar. Shankar, you're on mute.
Thank you. So Anjali, it was quite riveting. I really commend the efforts that you have put in, and there were a couple of things. I don't have any specific feedback per se, but there were a couple of things that totally resonated. The first is I totally agree that because with this pandemic, there was so much of overwhelming anxiety that started pouring in among the teacher community. More than the student community when the whole pandemic started, because the transition from an offline mode to an online mode was so rapid, especially for the teachers, whereas the students were waiting to see how it could be received. But that said, I think the panic was understandable. And one of the important lessons that we have learned over time in the last 15 to 18 months is really to reduce the workload for oneself, whether it is for the teachers or for that students. And therefore, the second thing that also resonated with me is to keep the student at the heart of the entire ecosystem and ensure that the stakeholders, the mindset of the stakeholders are all totally aligned. And I also totally also agree, and somewhere it resonates with me where, as you were speaking, is that when the entire thing started, we were looking at a digital adoption challenge. But now with young teachers like you, I can see that there is going to be a digital leadership from the teacher community. I think that was something that I totally noted. And thank you once again, Anjali, and wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
Any questions from any others in the room? If not, please feel free to drop in your wishes on chat for Anjali. Great.
Thank you so much, Anjali, for the presentation. So the next person to present her project is Monica. So a brief about Monica. With her passion to give back to the society, Monica did her master's in international human rights law. So she's a lawyer by education and training. And her dream is to make every child read and write, and wants to work directly at the grassroots level to understand the real issues of the system. So Monica has been working extensively with the stakeholders for the past 1 year, and her work in the school is very inspiring. I invite her to present her idea now.
Thank you, Lokesh. I'll just share my screen. Is my screen visible? Okay. I'll start now. Good morning. I'm Monica. I work for a government-aided school, which is Dhanlakshmi Primary School, located in the northern part of Chennai. Anjali and I share the similar community. So before going into my project outline itself, I just want you all to close your eyes for 20 to 30 seconds and just go back to your good old school days and just think of you enter your school, you enter your classroom, you see children playing, giggling, laughing, and then you also have your favorite teacher come inside the classroom, teach the favorite subject. You have some role plays going on, and then you hear a bell ring, you go to the ground, you play your favorite game, which could be cricket, football, carom board, and then you have lunchtime where you sit along with your children and then you eat food. After which you go back to your home and your parent is welcoming you. You just tell all that has happened at the school and you have a good night's sleep. Now, going on a toss, just imagine a child who's entering a dull and a gloomy classroom. where a teacher is standing over there taking a lecture. You sit in one corner, even for that matter, in an online setup where you're just in a mute mode, nobody to question you, nobody to hear you out, or even ask if you had had breakfast. And then you have no playtime, you just go back home and your parent is working. You want to call them, ask them out to come and draw with you, but they're very tired, and then you go back to sleep. Just open your eyes and come back to the reality. So this is a life of a student from a low income community that I'm working with. Now just imagine you went back to your 10, 15 years, 20 years back memories. What came to you? But just imagine what the child would have as memories after so many years. It's not just about the infrastructure changes that you would want to see, but also the enabling environment that a school should have, from the teaching aspects, from the online setup, and a lot of things in the school itself. So my coming to the project vision. So that is what I'm trying to do it. Have an enabling environment that fosters holistic development in children. So what are we concentrating here? The enabling environment itself. So enabling environment is concentrating on the leveling up classroom management skills, which is really important for a child to be heard, loud, seen, protected, felt safe. And that is how a child will develop emotionally, socially. And then we want a child to become leaders, torchbearers of the community itself. Uh, and coming to the student outcome aspects, what are the things that are already going well in the school, which is the traditional teaching methods, using of chart papers, boards, and small activities. But can we also integrate computer level or even technological level aspects that we can have to improve the learning levels of the children? And all these considering the brain development, but isn't it also important to have a physical growth setup for the children in the school? Have We all have played in the school, right? We would have had our own game or a sports time, but where these children are missing it out, and I think that is very important. And lastly, building positive relationship each and every stakeholder, with the teachers, with the peers, with the parents. So if you, even in your imagination, you could have imagined a friend, a favorite teacher. So how did you get to imagine that? Because you would have built a positive bonding with all of them. So in the school, we want to see that positive relationship building, for which we have certain interventions coming into place. All these interventions for them to learn, for them to share, to ideate, and also to have appreciation circles. So learning circles for not just students but teachers, and quality circle time where they discuss some feedbacks and ideation sessions, because I think the teachers also have a lot of potential to come up with so many ideas which can lead to formation of clubs, storytelling sessions, and introducing optional subjects like computer or robotics, or even having exhibitions and workshops. So what is at the infrastructure level is to set up library, play area. And another one important thing that I saw in this community was a medical and healthcare partnership that is really required, because my even in one instance where a parent told, all that we earn go for medical checkup or treatment. We don't have anything left to engage our child with. So that is why I came up with this idea. And finally, how to have a parent school partnership is through having regularized parent teachers meetings, school community management teams, and then having a regular community visits. And definitely we're going to have a reward system for everyone, because I think rewards are a motivation, and it'll take them forward in a very healthy manner. So what is that we are achieving in long term is going to have a healthy culture where we only have positive reinforcements, and hence deep-rooted values, which is going to help in the long-term school and community linkage. And of course, with all this in place, we are going to have positive student outcome achieved through the sustainable teaching methods. Now, going back to the same scenario, just close your eyes to just imagine that same kid who's going to enter the school with a lot of smile because he's going to have a club today, a play area, a storytelling session, and he has had a very good breakfast and have an energetic energy in his like full day. And then he returns back home to go tell his mother that, Mom, I had a beautiful day at school, and they are having a very fun time listening and chit-chatting. Yes, of course, that's what we want for the children, the holistic development, which is concentrating on the social, emotional, intellectual, physical, and the spiritual well-being of the child. That brings to the end of my project outline. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica. That really put a broad smile on my face to imagine the child in a new space, a changed space, and our heartfelt wishes to you to make this vision of yours come alive. I now hand it over to Shankar and the rest of the team here in the room.
Yeah, just a couple of observations, Monica. Again, splendid. Well done, Monica. Just a couple of observations. I think the whole concept of building a very holistic way of teaching, which is about not just the academic, but also the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, etc. I think that's very enriching to hear. And I totally agree also that students don't come to school necessarily to study. Actually, most of the students actually come to school to meet their friends and have a good time. And that is what I could imagine when I was closing my eyes rather. So I never went to school for a teacher. Maybe after my schools, I have remembered most of the teachers as much as my colleagues or friends. But I totally agree. The whole approach to a holistic teaching or a technique is absolutely a must. Well done, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shankar. Again, the request is for each one of you to put in your messages, your wishes on chat for Monica. Thank you very much. Okay. So moving on to the next presentation, I invite Abhinaya Sridharan. A lawyer by education, Abhinaya wants to make the world a better place by helping shape one young mind at a time. She believes deeply in the impact that policy level changes can bring to education and aspires to create systemic change through public policy. Abhinaya, over to you.
Thank you so much, Vaish. Let me just quickly share my screen over here. I hope it is visible. Yeah, okay.
It is Abhinaya.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. A very good morning and a warm welcome to all present here. I'm Abhinaya Sridharan, a Bhumi fellow from the very first cohort. As part of my fellowship, I have been working at Sri Arangaya Naidu Middle School for the past year. We follow Tamil medium, but we have also engaged with English medium instruction. To paint you a picture of what my school is like, we have 130 children on roll between classes 1 to 5 in the primary grades. And out of them, 97 of them are engaged in e-learning at this point. Here, I would also want to record my sincere gratitude to our donors, BNP Paribas, for having donated close to 60 tablets in order to ensure that engagement is possible across all these grades. In the past year that I've worked with my stakeholders, one thing has come very clearly to me. There is immense potential in each of them. At this juncture, I'm reminded of a quote that Benjamin Franklin once said, "An investment in knowledge pays the best dividend." With that in mind, I'd like to introduce you to my vision statement for the school. The school leadership and the teachers will nurture an environment suitable for learning and all-rounded development for the children. Now, the primary goal or the primary idea here is to invest in sustainable structures that continue to work in the school even after the fellow exits from the school. I'll move on to the key levers of change. In my connections with the many stakeholders at the school, and in my proposed interventions, I could identify certain key drivers or certain key levers of change. First and foremost are my teachers. I'd like to shed some light on the opportunity for growth that I saw over here. Here I saw that as we transition into 21st century learning, there was an opportunity to bring as much innovation into the classroom as possible, right? The teaching and learning methods by my teacher, I felt could be upskilled across all the primary grades that I have had a chance to observe. Therefore, in line with the National Education Policy of 2020, I saw that there was a change we could see in terms of adopting new approaches to e-learning. So the structure here that I envision for my teachers is a learning community, setting up a learning community called Back to Basics. Here, I want the teachers to actually touch back to the basics, go back to foundational literacy, foundational numeracy, and also social emotional learning, and taking these forward to our classrooms and our children. So here I would like them to concentrate on how to teach and how to assess these outcomes in our children. Another key intervention or a key stakeholder that I saw here is my HM or the headmistress. In my experience and in my observations, my HM has been a motivated leader right from day one, and she has been striving to bridge the learning gap for the students even after we went into online learning and blended learning. However, I could also observe that there was an opportunity for her to become a better administrator over here. I could see that she has a rapport that she shares with the teachers that has only been established after years and years of connect. But I could also see that while she is constantly exploring for newer collaborations and newer solutions to challenges, there are things that we can improve in terms of streamlining processes. So that was one vision I had for my HM for her to become a better administrator. And here, the structure that I would like to introduce here is something called connections. So this is a monthly space between the HM and the teachers for them to collaborate and co-create certain structures for the development of the school and the teachers and other stakeholders. At the same time, coming up with goals and expectations together. I will move on to the next lever, that is the parents. Now, the role of parents is indubitably crucial in achieving success in our context. I have observed that my parents, the parents of my children in the school come from a lower income background. So we are situated in an area called Ainavaram in Chennai. And it comes and the composition or the demography of parents is usually a lower income background where most of them are daily wage laborers and they depend on the occasional odd job. But in all my interactions, I have observed one thing for sure, and that shines through, is that the parents always want the child to benefit from the education that they're receiving at Arangaya Naidu. In one of the parents told me that I can't even sign my own name. I don't know how to put my own signature, but I don't want that for my child. I want my child to be educated and educated well. And now that was the driving point in designing interventions for them. I would like to see more investment of parents in my school for them to engage, for them to come together and to also envisage success for the school. That is the outcome that I'd like to see. Now, the structure through which I want them to engage with the school is something called meet and greet. So due to legal reasons, my school does not have a school management committee or an SMC. However, I don't want the parent intervention to stop right there. I want parents to come together through meet and greet where they're able to connect with the teachers, connect with the HMs, talk about what their child needs and how their child can grow, and eventually how the entire school can grow. Now, finally, my children. Now, I know that I haven't mentioned them explicitly in the vision statement itself, but I would like to mention that for all the interventions that I'm planning, they are either directly or indirectly the beneficiaries. Now, the children at my school, I have seen that there is a need for consistent growth. Now, they need to have a strong foundation, which ensures that they're at the grade level in terms of literacy and numeracy and also socio-emotional learning. Now for that, I have also come up with a structure called Fun Fridays, which goes beyond these basics and also covers the all-rounded development as mentioned in my vision. So Fun Fridays envisions that children are able to engage in an extracurricular or a co-curricular activity at least 1 hour every Friday in order to ensure that growth is possible. At this point, I'd like to take you through the short-term outcomes that I see coming alive very quickly. First and foremost, I see that goals and expectations for online teaching would have been met and would have been set by the connections between the HM and the teachers. I see that teachers would be engaged in an atmosphere of learning and development through a learning community. I also see that strong foundations will be set for literacy and numeracy across all the primary grades. And also see that the parents would be invested in the child's progress through meet and greet and more. But on the long term, I see that teachers are able to reflect on their skills and engage in self-learning as well. As I mentioned, there's a learning community, but there's also going to be a component of self-learning. I also see that innovative pedagogical structures will be utilized across all the primary grades at Arangaya Naidu School. I also see that HM is able to identify scope for progress and map interventions appropriately, whereas the parents are able to contribute effectively to the growth of the school as a whole. At this point, I'd like to conclude with the fact that there are many interventions planned, but the key interventions are possible only with the appropriate support and the kind of interventions we have planned for the school with each of the stakeholders. I see. I would like to end with with a quote. One of my favorite quotes by Lyndon Johnson. He says, "Education is not a problem. Education is an opportunity," and that's how I see the tone for my entire project outline being set here. With that, thank you so much for your time, and I'll stop here.
Thank you, Abhinaya. Thank you for that beautifully laid out vision. And now I hand it over to Shankar.
Thanks, Vaishnavi, and wonderful, Abhinaya. I'm happy to share three specific inputs, Abhinaya. The whole in the whole digital space today, we speak of the three V's. The first is video, the second is voice, and the third, interestingly, is vernacular. Because in this whole digital adoption space, what we have seen is that people who don't necessarily speak English or for that matter communicate regularly have digitally adopted because of the fact that this digital space has given the opportunity to speak in multiple languages. There are credits, there are subtitles, etc., etc. If we speak of the purely video. So I was also happy to note. So correct me if I'm wrong. That your school, the one that you're attached to, Sri Arangaya Naidu Middle School, is a Tamil school, is that? Because I personally am a huge proponent of non-English schools. Because for some reason, maybe because of the colonial past, we have adopted largely English medium schools, where our own languages, the regional languages, have been relegated to the second or the third language. But I would have wanted to look at it the other way around. But anyway, we don't want to go there at this stage. The second aspect, which again I think it's fairly stunning, and you have alluded to it, is how in this space in these times actually we have been forced to also really calibrate the time of the teachers into teaching, into engaging students, and equally administrative skills, which is so important as well. The third is, of course, you spoke of engaging the parents or involving the parents, whether it is to do with meet and greet or to do with regular parent-teacher meetings, etc. Of course, this was never a thing of the past. In the past, as far as I can remember, my parents would only come to school only if I had done I've done some mistake at school, or if I had done some mischief where the parents were called, etc. But of course, things have changed. So the involvement of the parents in the whole education of the child is gaining significance, is so important, especially in societies such as ours. So Abhinaya, strong resonation in many of the things that you spoke about. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shankar. I invite others to also share their thoughts on the chat. So we'll go to the next person, which is Nilanjana. A little bit of background about Nilanjana. Nilanjana has a degree in business administration and believes that right education has the power to radically transform an individual and prepare them for the world. So Nilanjana, she's a continuous learner from my experience working with her in the past year, and she aspires to work with children in conflict affected zones. And in her interventions in her school as well, she places the child at the center. And I'm looking forward to seeing her presentation. Nilanjana, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lokesh. I'll just share my screen. Are you all able to see my screen? Sorry.
Yes, Nilanjana. It's loading, a little slow.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So good morning, everyone. I hope all of you are doing very well this Friday morning. I am Nilanjana Varanasi, a Bhumi Fellow at SMDPVC Nursery and Primary School. SMDPVC Nursery and Primary School is a low-income private school in Chennai. The school follows two different mediums of instruction, namely Tamil and English. The children that study at the school are children from neighboring communities that surround the school, and the parents of these children are mostly daily wage laborers, and a lot of the parents have completed their education up to classes 8 and 10. And why I mention this is because what's often come up in conversation with the parents is how they believe that their education or a lack thereof is a limiting factor when it comes to contributing to their child's education. The parents have often shared that the fact that they have not been educated comes in the way of them helping out and contributing to their child's education and development. Which brings me to talk to you about some of the key problem areas that I have been able to identify in the past year of working with the school. One being school leadership practices. Why I believe that this
Nilanjana, I'm sorry, I'm going to pause you there because
Yeah.
your Zoom windows are blocking parts of the presentation. So you can probably minimize that.
Yeah, sure. Is this better?
Just give me a minute, it's loading.
Yeah.
Yeah, better. Thank you.
Alright.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, okay. So to take you through some of the problem areas that I have been able to identify in the past year of working with the school, I believe that school leadership practice is a problem because the school leader joined the school in 2019 in November or December. And as we all know, with the onset of the pandemic in 2020 March, there was very little time to establish structures or processes in the school system that sort of foster a positive school culture, a trusting relationship between the school leader and the teachers and the other stakeholders in the system. Which also brings me to talk to you about student learning outcomes. And why I believe that is a problem is because, as we all know, in the last year, because of the pandemic, the learning gap that has been generated over the last year has been significant. And as a result of that, student learning outcomes have been impacted over the last year. And which also brings me to talk to you about stakeholder mindsets and why I believe there is a problem in the school system. Often what's come up in conversation with multiple stakeholders in the school system is how when it comes to trying out a new intervention, a new idea in the classroom or in the school itself, there is often a fixed mindset or a challenge arises even before an opportunity comes up in conversation with the stakeholders. And this brings me to talk to you about the vision I have for the school or for this project, which is children will develop into confident, creative, and resilient young learners and individuals. Why I believe that this is an important vision is because of the pandemic. What's happened is there has been a lack of confidence. The confidence of children has been affected over the last year, and also children at times doubt themselves in the classrooms, particularly in online classrooms. That's why I believe that it is very important for children to develop into confident and resilient young learners and individuals in the classroom and outside of it as well. And to achieve this vision, these are some of the key interventions that I was able to come up with. For the school leader, there will be one-to-one spaces with teachers where the school leader and the teachers come together to share any personal or professional difficulties or challenges that they might be facing, and also subsequently come up with strategies that will help them cope or that will help them address the problem or challenge that they have been facing. And in addition to that, there will be spaces where the school leader and teachers come together to set performance targets for teachers and for the students. In addition to setting these targets for the teachers and students, there will also be spaces where they come back together to sort of reevaluate these targets and analyze student performance data and discuss performance data as well. For the teachers, the focus is teacher-driven collaborative spaces where teachers will come together to discuss classroom management practices, different teaching learning methods, the methods that they've been trying in their classrooms. And in addition to the focus of these spaces being on the classroom, the focus of these spaces will also be on teachers collaborating, teachers taking initiative, and teacher agency. That will also be the focus of these spaces. Apart from teacher-driven collaborative spaces, we also have learning and development spaces for the teachers, where teachers will be taken through classroom management practices, using data-driven instruction, and also how they can build student agency in their classrooms. For the parents, we have the school management committee, which I'm hoping to implement in the year, where the school leader, the teachers, and the parents will be a part of the board of the management committee, and will come up with goals, will put down goals, and will develop an agenda for the school. And we'll also have clarity on their roles as to how they can go about achieving this goal and the vision for the school. Apart from that, there will also be parent-teacher meetings where the parents and teachers will come together, and the teachers will provide any individual support that the parents may require. They will discuss the child's development in these spaces. And apart from that, as a result of these spaces, teachers will also give the parents strategies on how they can be invested in their child's education. The outcomes of these interventions will be, for the school leader or for the school at large, there will be a positive and trusting culture that is established in the school. There will be a significant improvement in the relationship between the school leader and the teachers, where the teachers will be more confident in coming forth and putting their ideas and suggestions to the school leader. And for the teacher, there will be a significant improvement in the culture between the staff, where teachers will come together, collaborate, and there will also be a mindset shift in the teachers through the spaces. As a result of the mindset shift for the teachers, there will be improved learning outcomes for the children as a larger outcome. And for the parents, there will be increased community participation. There will be improved investment in the child's development as well through the school management committee and the parent-teacher meetings. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. These are the following outcomes and interventions that I believe will have the most significant impact and will help in achieving the vision for the school, which is children will develop into confident, creative, and resilient young learners and individuals. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you very much, Nilanjana. Really bright faces there, and we really wish that your vision comes alive this 1 year. Over to Shankar. And again, the invitation is for each one of us to put down our wishes for Nilanjana. Shankar.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. Nilanjana, this was very interesting to hear. I had only maybe one input, if I may, and one observation. The observation is that I also appreciate the fact that you are actively looking at and creating so many collaboration platforms. And when I speak of collaboration platforms that will bring all the 3 or 4 different communities together, whether it is the community of the students, the parents, the teachers, and the administration of the school itself. So this is wonderful. The second input that I had, maybe it is baked somewhere inside, but you did not call it out, is that I would imagine that in the school's curriculum, you should also actively looking at bringing arts, sports, or environment related activities. I think that is equally important because we attach so much of importance to the academics, which is great. But I think this is also something that you may want to think about. But thank you so much, Nilanjana. Splendid.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shankar. So I would now like to invite Judith to share her vision. Having studied psychology, literature, and journalism, Judith, through her experiences, believes that teachers are key to reimagining the education system and strives towards empowering teachers in her school. Judith, over to you.
Thanks, Vaish. I'll just share my screen. Sorry, a little slow. Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can. Go
All
ahead.
right. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Judith and I work at Sri RKM Sharda Vidyalaya Model Primary School. It is a Tamil medium school that is government aided, and the school is really beautiful and they have a beautiful garden, etc. So one of the first conversations I had after becoming part of the school was with the parent, and I had asked the parent why the child doesn't interact on WhatsApp and why the child isn't participating in the class and all of that. So the parent told me that there is a lack of food, so how are they going to put internet recharges and this and that. So there was a whole conversation, and I did not have answers for this parent at that point. I was very confused, and I myself didn't have a solution to that problem. In fact, that impacted me deeply, and I constantly go back to that conversation through everything, and whenever I'm thinking about the school itself. After that, we provided devices and the student was able to have access. But I still go back and think about how the problem itself might not be addressed at many times. So I, through my causal analysis, figured that there are multiple problems. And I think problem number two that you're seeing on the screen, minimum engagement and touch points with the parents, was one of the important problems. Investing the parents in the education of the children is something that is key here because of the poverty, and because the 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 children need their parents, right, to support them through the course of their education for them to be better individuals. And education is definitely power. So the first problem is lack of teacher agency and improved classroom practices. The second one, as I already mentioned, is minimum engagement points. And the third one is there is a lack of positive culture within the team itself. So I put on a vision for the school to create a positive culture of collaboration among the stakeholders and to enhance student development and agency. I also identified key levers for for me to bring about this vision. So they were ownership, leadership, and student and teacher agency. My focus areas are primarily investing the parents, teacher development, creating structures and spaces for everyone to collaborate, and bringing about a positive school culture. Moving forward, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my theory of change. So while imagining my theory of change, as I already mentioned, I imagined, bringing everyone into the picture and, having a very inclusive theory of change. I also believe that by making small tweaks and introducing very small structures, there can be a large impact and a ripple effect that will change the entire culture of the school itself. So firstly, I'm going to talk about the student leader, the school leaders, and the teachers. So there's a lack of agency. That is the problem here. So I want to introduce feedback channels and reflective spaces to create a culture of accountability. I've also put down a positive culture within the team, the lack of positive culture within the team. So I want to create gratitude circles and weekly check-ins among the teachers and student leader. So we have touch points with each other and know where each one is at, so that the teachers and the school leader will be able to help each other. So I think this will bring about better teaching and learning practices as well. Moving forward, the parents are one of the very important stakeholders in my theory of change itself. So creating touch points with parents. Here, I'm very excited about this intervention, learning to teach spaces. So sharing circles for the parents and learning to teach spaces. So this was something that I came up with when one of my parents asked me what I had taught in class. So the parent said that they didn't understand, so they couldn't help the child. So I thought, why not teach the parent to teach the child? That would be really interesting, right? So learning to teach spaces for the parents, and that will in turn develop parent investment. Lastly, the students who are extremely important, and for them, I feel like there's a lack of student leaders, especially in the online context. They feel very, they feel like they don't have a space to speak and all of that. So giving them agency and giving them a space to be leaders by creating, structures for student leaders and extracurricular clubs, I think that will lead to us seeing actually how much potential they have and all-round development. So in the short term, I see a culture of accountability, parent investment, better teaching and learning practices, student leaders, and all-round development of the student, which in turn will develop our students, and they'll have student agency, improved academics, and all-round development in all. So basically, 360-degree development is what we're aiming for through this. I'll also talk about what I want to see in the long term. So in the long term, I want to see a growth mindset, a problem-solving ecosystem, adaptability, and a culture of positivity and learning built within the school. In turn, this will create whole school transformation. So in the beginning, I talked about how poverty holds a lot of children back and holds a lot of parents back. So I'm going to end by saying that if we create these kind of systems and the school is so inclusive that the parents feel so safe within this space, we're going to be able to take off education from their, list of worries. So once that happens, I think the parents will, be extremely invested. So if they don't have to worry about the child's education, then they're definitely going to be supportive of it. So it's not going to be a burden for them. So that creating that connection and bringing about that change will really help. I also want to build a strong cultural structure in the school, and I believe that it will happen. So, all in all, we're looking to create investment from all sides, and I believe that Sharda will become the model school for whole school transformation, and in line with the Bhumi Fellowship vision as well. We'll together create an amazing space for the children to grow, and not just externally, but also from within. They'll be wholesome individuals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judith. Really love the energy and the passion with which you articulated that belief statement. And we also believe that through your work, this vision statement will definitely come alive. Thank you once again. Shankar, over to you.
I so totally agree, Vaishnavi. I think the passion was very, very. It could be felt, and it's so splendid, Judith. Judith, I had two points or two remarks, and then I had one question, maybe because I wanted to also hear what is your thoughts around it. Firstly, the whole good. I mean, the long-term outcomes that you have outlined is very interesting. I like the concept of the theory of the change, wherein also you're trying to reach different pockets, different people, and in this day and space we are looking at, we need to also accept the fact that nobody should become an island. Uh, so that's why I think creating these spaces wherein you bring people together, and that's what you have alluded to somewhere in your theory of change. The question I had in mind, because you've kind of, I think, more very strongly focused on that as well, Judith, is why is, according to you, the parent involvement such an important aspect? Why is it more and more becoming a necessity, according to you?
So, Shankar, especially now, we're looking at parents taking up the role of teachers as well, because students are at home for the most part right now. So, as teachers, we get to spend a maximum 1 hour, with 1.5 hours with the kids. That is the standard time right now. So, I think parents have to take up that role and give that encouragement, become the cheerleaders for the students itself. So, they have to believe in education. A lot of them are not educated. The community around Sharda is actually consists of similar communities actually to the others what they mentioned, right? So they consist of daily wage laborers. A lot of them haven't studied much, so they have to see that this will be that lever for them, right, for the children. So education will change their lives in ways that the parents' lives couldn't be changed because they weren't given that opportunity. So creating that channel and helping them understand the importance of it, so that even if everything, what I felt was the poverty might sometimes overbear and they won't be able to take it at times. But even at that point, they shouldn't be like, okay, I'll stop my child from going to school. They should be like, no, that is the one way in which I'll be able to, you know, make life better for my child. So using that as a channel and reinforcing that constantly is something that I want to do through my project. I hope that answers your question.
Totally. Thank you so much, Judith. And I look forward, if ever I get a opportunity to travel to Chennai, to come to and see your school as well, because I don't see too many schools with garden these days. They're all more and more becoming concrete structures. Thank you, Judith.
Thank you, Judith. Shankar, that was the last presentation for the day. So we would now invite you to share your closing thoughts on, the 5 ideas, the 5 vision statements, and anything that you have to offer the fellows and the Bhumi Fellowship team.
Uh, Thank you so much, everyone. I think it was very enriching for me, starting from Anjali to Monica to Abhinaya to Nilanjana and Judith. I think it was. I'm going back with a lot of learnings, and I've taken some elaborate notes as well. Because when I started, I mean, when we started, I thought it's going to be a lot of there is going to be a lot of focus on what are the challenges that all of you are facing during these pandemic times. But what was so overwhelming for me is that how all of you have such forward looking visions that you have put together as well. You're not, and rightly, as someone said, that you're looking at this as an opportunity, not as a crisis really. And that was one of the most underlying thoughts that I could connect with. uh, yes, of course, this pandemic, or the whole digital space, has the panic has been understandable, and one has to expect a lot of trials and maybe a plenty of errors also. And we have to, of course, all of you, I have to confess that we have to accept that, and acknowledge that we are living in absolutely extraordinary times. What the education space is going through, what any industry, any domain is going through, is absolutely extraordinary. We have never seen such times, and I hope that we never have to face such times again as well. But also, I hope that we, at the end of all these things, come wiser and stronger as well. Uh, in my own sense, at least some of the notes that I've captured from what all of you have described is that teaching is becoming more and more an activity-based approach, rather than a conventional, even if it were very classroom, from a very conventional approach to a very activity-based approach. I think that is something that I could sense as all of you spoke about. And again, in that two specific things, I thought to myself is how there is a huge pedagogical adoption also, apart from purely or merely digital space itself. And how a teacher's space, mindset, mind frame is being now recalibrated. And that's something that I think it came out in one of your presentations also. It is not purely about teaching, it is also about how equally to engage the students, the parents, and also look at a lot of administrative activities also. uh, Involving parents, I think that is something that all of you have practically alluded to, and that I think, Judith, you have also kind of summed up as to what are your thoughts around it. So that is interesting. uh, then if I have to look at it, I think the digital space, I think in the last 1.5 years or so, it has also created a lot of opportunities to collaborate effectively. And I hope that we gradually look at building some hybrid models as well. Because of course this online space is not going to last long. We will soon and hopefully move in an offline space as well. So this is where we will have to also actively ensure that we are able to sustain these kind of collaborations, because often one gets automatically busy the moment everything is back to normal, and that I hope should not happen. And we should therefore really take lessons seriously to our heart, and be able to sustain what we have envisaged, or the different vision statements that all of you have spoken about. That said, I think one of the two most important aspects that I took for myself from all of your presentations, the 5 presentations that I saw this morning, is one. I think we are already looking at leaders in teachers, and that is so evident from the way each one of you at such a young stage are able to articulate so well, as well as present, envision this and put this on a piece of paper. I think that is so vital. And that shows collectively how advanced and how deeply emotionally you are involved in your own little spaces as well. The second is clearly we are looking at a strong commitment, and you are going to be clearly leaders of tomorrow. And teaching as a profession, I think, is apart from what we today see as the frontliners, the medical profession, are among the noblest of professions. Unfortunately, in India, it is relegated much to the background. But clearly, we are seeing this teaching as a profession really coming to the forefront again. And all of you, the young generation, looking at teaching with such passion, looking at academics with such passion, looking at nurturing the younger minds with such passion is very, very enriching, or very, very encouraging for me myself. At the end of the day, what I would also want to leave you with, and Dr. and Vaishnavi, I say this under your control as well. For BNP Paribas India Foundation, I would love to hear and receive some feedbacks from all 5 of you as well. If you think there is something that we can do differently during the annual process, if we can digitally or otherwise support you differently, I would love to have your feedback so that we are able to channelize ourselves in a manner that is meaningful and impactful, and you are able to actually see how the needle is shifting in your own schools as well. But all in all, thank you so much, Dr. and Vaishnavi. This was such a privilege and honor for me to hear the young minds speaking. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Shankar, for your support, for coming here and sharing your feedback.
Thank you.
For me, 2 things stood out in all the 5 presentations. One is all your passion and energy. Really satisfying that all the hard work building the program is the outcome is for us. For building the program, the outcome is you, and that is very satisfying to see how much you're bringing to your schools and to your projects. That's really satisfying, and really looking forward to all the things that you're going to do afterwards, because these 2 years are even though you're doing great things in the school, it's a preparation for what is to come. And we really look forward to all of you becoming educational change makers, entrepreneurs in the educational ecosystem, because for Bhumi, our belief is that we alone cannot solve this problem, and we need more people like you to join this mission. So really satisfying. Second thing that was really heartwarming was the common thing about engaging parents. Like some of you shared, parent engagement used to be about complaints. Even Shankar shared, right? It was not a very positive thing. At least when I went to school, it was always you get called to school only for some problem or something like that. So it's really the shift in approach is, I think, school for all our children will be a little better because of all of you. So that was really heartwarming, and that stood out for me. And yeah, I think that's what I wanted to share. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure coming here today. Yeah. Back to you, Vaish and Lokesh.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you so much, Shankar, also for sharing your thoughts and beautifully summarizing all the presentations. And I think when you're talking, you're able to see, you're able to make connections to how this ties to the long term and how you're also envisioning it. And thank you also for sharing your thoughts as well. I think the vision behind starting Bhumi Fellowship, like Vaish mentioned at the start of the session, is also is achieving equitable education for all children, right? Today, we know that there are 25 crore children in our system, and about 18 crore of them are in low-income schools, such as ours, the schools that we work in, or government schools, right? So the problem itself is huge, and like Doc rightly said, I think this is the preparation stage for you as fellows, and I am walking away with a lot of hope that after you finish the fellowship, you will be able to multiply your impact and maybe impact 5,000, 10,000, maybe even a lakh children in the long run, right? So that is the hope, and I'm walking away with a lot of positivity from today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you so much, Lokesh. Thank you, everyone, once again. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Take care.
Thank you.